So just yesterday was the ARMS Direct that had a Splatoon 2 trailer at the end of the whole Direct. And before the trailer even started, I already had an idea of what it was going to be, simply from the last Direct we had, where they said that information on the single player was going to be coming soon. And so when the trailer for this started up, I instantly knew that it was going to in fact be about the single player. So instead of just having the video playing, I'm in fact going to be going through a bunch of screenshots and then having the whole trailer play in its entirety at the end, just so you can get a better look at things. But to start, we're going to go over some screenshots I took, and we'll go over them and talk about some things that we can see. So let's get started. The first screenshot was taken pretty much instantly as the video started. I don't know if this spot is supposed to be where you will actually spawn as the news or whatever replaces the news ends and you can actually move about, or if this is just where the trailer started and it's just that. From here we can see the amiibo box to the left where you'll interact with the amiibo you have. Straight in front of you, you can see what I would imagine is supposed to be the truck that Krusty Sean has now taken over and now goes through this instead of an actual store. And then in an unusual amount of detail that I don't normally go over, in the background you can see a screen, well, a couple of screens that seem to be promoting something. I don't know if this is supposed to be some sort of like in thing where it's like a TV show or whatever in their world, or it's promoting a new brand that we have yet to see. But that's pretty much all that is here, so let's keep going. Not long after that other screenshot, we get to see this stuff, where this is probably the main area of Inkopolis Square. We can see a couple stores, and we can see quite a few Inklings that are dispersed around the place. Now, I'm not sure if these Inklings are just supposed to be generic and will always be here. The Inklings that populated your plaza in the first game are either Miiverse or based on the people you play, so I don't know if these are all going to be instead people you play against, because there's no such thing as Miiverse in Splatoon 2. Or these are just randomly filled spots with generic characters that are here only to exist here. So we can see some of the stores here. There really isn't too much we know about what each store does, but we can see a screen above one of these places that shows an Inkling with white ink. Now this is interesting, as one of the previous Japanese Splatfests did get a sort of white-ish ink color, though it was never seen outside of Japan. And I'd like to see that ink color return, as I actually use the color editor for Splatoon specifically to play with this color because I really liked it. So here we get to see what's the entrance to the, I guess, the tower where you'll play battles, enter turf war, do ranked, whatever. And we can see that it has the same screens that the first game has, displaying the maps that are in rotation. However, the only two maps that it shows in the trailer are the Reef and Muscle Forge Fitness. Its chances are it probably just cycles through these two because either A, they were the only two maps finished at the time this build was compiled, or B, they just didn't want to show the other maps for Lord knows why. From this screen we can see that Judd and Little Judd are just sitting to the left of the entrance, and we can see Merch sitting just to the right. It's very nice that they have Merch sitting right next to this area, because this is where people will be spending most of their time, and having to back out to the plaza and then walk to like the very far right side of the map just to see Spike was really annoying, when they could have just easily put him closer. But I guess they were trying to go off for like this homeless vibe with him. And then just to the left we can see Marie a bit, and she acts as the entrance to the single player, which was the main focus of this Direct. So this screenshot we get a look at the new hero armor. So this is going to be the hero equipment you'll use in story mode that replaces, what we got in Splatoon 1. There really isn't too much to it. It seems like they are just slightly redesigned versions of the hero armor we get in the first game, with some of them just looking kind of odd and out of place, or like the example of the hero headset looks really skinny and a lot smaller than it did in the first game. Now normally this would be like some generic screenshot that doesn't really point out much, but I wanted to use this as it shows that there is a different helmet that's being used as the armor. Now this means that there is strengthened armor in the game, like how in the first Splatoon in this the single player you could pick up stronger armor that would allow you to take another hit, or like more damage before you actually took real damage. It seems like that kind of mechanic is returning, though I'm thankful that they replaced the really ugly like mask sort of thing, like that huge headpiece with just a simple helmet. This image also shows that the Octarians are basically the base enemy yet again, which we kind of already knew from all the original trailers showing off them, but I just wanted to use this image to point out that it does look like stronger armor will be back. Then they used some clips to show off some new mechanics that were added to the single player that will probably not exist in the multiplayer. If you remember in Splatoon 1, they had the sponges, the ink lines, and all that stuff. Well, they're introducing new stuff into the single player Splatoon 2. And in this, you can't really see it because if it's a screenshot, but you'll see at the end. These platforms that the Inkling is just above act as like trampolines, so they could bounce around on these platforms, setting them up as they land on it. Now I'm not sure if it has to be inked in their color or it just does it normally. They probably do it normally in the video and I just completely spaced it. But they have this new little trampoline thing and I think that's pretty cool. Probably would be a little annoying in the multiplayer because with the game's prediction, with the movement prediction, the multiplayer has, chances are this will mess with the prediction and make it really hard to hit people because they'll just stutter around on your screen when on their screen everything's going just fine. Now once again with this screenshot you can't really tell what's happening, but it seems like they have this weird barrel rolling mechanic here, or these little arrow pads you can kind of see at the bottom. They send your Inkling flying, but instead of just flying around, you actually roll on the ground, and you like just gain a bunch of speed by rolling around. That'd be pretty interesting to have on like certain maps in multiplayer as a way of traveling, but like at the expense of not being able to shoot. I don't know. It'd be kind of interesting, but it's probably going to be stuck in single player. I just wanted to point it out because it was, like I said, one of the few new mechanics that we can see that are added to the single player. Now here's one that I saw a lot of people mentioning on Twitter about, and this is a grind rail. Now we know that the normal ink rails are where you go into a squid and then you exist inside the line of ink that's on it. Well, now you can actually grind on rails for Lord knows why. But I've been seeing a lot of references to Sonic Adventure 2 on Twitter with this, and I can see the correlation because there was a huge emphasis on grinding in that game, and this just kind of seems out of the blue. I'd like for this to be used in multiplayer because this is a good way to travel and you'll still be able to fire, though it'll probably be very hard to aim while you're zipping along the map like this. Pardon the fact that these screenshots are in fact from the Japanese version of the Direct. I wanted to watch it to see if there are any differences between the English and Japanese version, and if you're wondering, no there's not. Both videos are the same duration and contain the same information. But the screenshot is from the Japanese Direct, and it shows that Sheldon is in fact returning, and it shows that the single player will swap your weapon out. So instead of having like the weapons being locked to the amiibo missions where you had to have X amiibo to actually use the hero charger, now it'll actually be swapped around in missions, it looks like. So each mission you'll be playing a different weapon, or just in certain parts of the mission your weapon will be swapped to something that the game probably sees as more appropriate for the situation you'll be going into. Now these next couple of screenshots are pretty significant for the sole purpose of we get to see that there are new hero weapons. Now, if you don't remember, hero weapons exist in the first game as the hero shot, the hero charger, and the hero roller, which were basically just reskins of the pre-existing splatter shot, splat charger, and splat roller, but just, you know, using the single player design. So with these screenshots we can see things like right here we get to see a hero slosher. Then in this screenshot we get to see what looks to be the hero splat dualies. Then we get to see the hero blaster, the hero heavy splatling. Then in these next two screenshots we get a look at what I thought was a carbon roller. Now this looks very similar to the carbon roller in the fact that the texturing on the roller itself matches this sort of texturing that exists on the carbon roller, but doesn't exist on the splat roller. Where the carbon roller has like these little lines on the roller that are very, I guess, not really noticeable unless you look at it long enough, but it has lines in the ink on the roller where the splat rollers have like little bumps. This roller, which people on Twitter bashed me for saying it was a carbon, it looks like it's a carbon, but people are saying it is a normal splat roller. And I know for a fact that I'm not the only one that thought this, as a bunch of people that I was in a voice chat with during the Direct thought it was a carbon as well. And I've been seeing some Japanese people on Twitter also saying it looks like a carbon. so I know it's not just me. But if this is a carbon, then this shows that the carbon will have a vertical flick as well. And then for a very brief amount of time, we get to see the hero Octobrush. Now, a couple people on Twitter have pointed out how that seems very odd to have the hero and then Octobrush, as the Octobrush implies it is for the Octolings, where there's the ink brush for Inklings. Now it would be a hero version of the bad guy's weapon, I guess. I don't know, I'm still excited for it. And then with this, we get a look at the new Octoling design. We get to see that the Octolings have these sort of glasses that cover their eyes instead of the goggles they have in the first game. And it's more or less the same, where the design other than the glasses is pretty much the same. Though we do get to see that the Octolings do use weapons other than the Octoshot, as this Octoling is using a roller. Then here we get a look at Moray Towers, or at least probably the single player version of Moray Towers. Some maps from the game actually show up in single player, the same with the first game, where they have some slight alterations to the map, more so to create obstacles and fix obstacles so single player works in a way. So we can't really say that this is how Moray Towers will look in the multiplayer version, but it seems like the ink rails will replace with the grind rails. And then when looking at the map itself, it seems that the middle part of the map is more open. The areas where the zones are in Splat Zones are much larger, and the ramps to the side of the spot that most people refer to as the snipe is much wider as well, making it easier to actually climb across. One big concern with Moray Towers is how very cramped these ramps are, and it seems from these pictures that they're making them significantly wider, which would help it to a pretty decent degree. However, I still personally think Moray Towers shouldn't have returned at all. And that was pretty much it for the series of screenshots I had. So now the actual trailer itself in its entirety is going to be playing, and I'm not really going to be going over it as it plays, but because the key parts that I wanted to talk about were all in those screenshots. I am very interested in the single player, though I'm hoping that it is significantly longer and doesn't have pointless padding that the first game had. The reason why the game in the first one had you search out for the levels instead of just sending you to them was to make it seem like the single player was longer than it really is, when in fact it wasn't very long at all. If you cut out all that exploration, the single player lasts 30 to 40 minutes only. So I'm hoping the single player is longer. I hope it provides more content and more interesting things to do. And yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm really hopeful for it, unlike the first game where the story mode was just kind of a drag and bored the crap out of me. And I can understand that it exists as the sole reason to help people learn to play and use the controls. But for people like me that have played the first one, I'd like this single player to actually be more than just a way to learn the game. So with that, enjoy the rest of the trailer, and if you have any thoughts on the trailer itself, feel free to leave them in the comments. I will be checking them like I do every video. I do read the comments, and I'll probably pitch in a couple cents when it comes to what you guys think. But yeah, that's it, and I thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.